right, good evening. It is 6:02, so I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Moorestown Township Board of Education. Meeting was called in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act with adequate notices provided on June 17th, 2025 in the Courier Post and the Burlington County Times. Flag is to our right. Could you please rise for the pledge? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. James, could you please call roll?
Miss Arcara Burns.
Present.
Mrs. Aurora. Present. Mrs. Barnes.
Here.
Mrs. Fowles Macaluso. Dr. Myatt.
Here.
Mrs. Morano.
Here.
Mr. Weeks.
Present.
Mrs. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Villanueva.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We typically don't have a meeting after our regular public board meeting in June, so I appreciate everybody's flexibility. I know we have had this, at least internally, on the calendar for quite some time because we knew that we were going to have to take action on the referendum questions, and we are in this room because there's a camp, a summer camp that uses the media center, and so it was easiest to have this meeting here without reorganizing the media center. So thanks for everybody for taking time out off of your summer schedule to be here, and I will kick it over to Dr. McNeely for the presentation regarding the referendum.
Good evening. Before we begin our presentation, I do want to take a moment to reflect on last week's graduation ceremony with immense appreciation. While it's clear that the weather definitely threw us a curveball and the evening didn't exactly unfold as we planned, what stood out most was the strength of our community. Despite all of the challenges we had that evening, our staff and students and families were resilient. They were flexible and they showed heart. And in those moments, the true spirit of Moorestown was undeniable. So our graduates and people who supported them showed us exactly what it meant to move forward with grace and pride. And for that, I wanted to say tonight that I am deeply grateful for our community. So with that, I believe we're going to start our presentation. Right? Okay. Mr. Heiser is going to join me. For the live stream, right? Oops. Here, I'll get this. I definitely don't need these papers, but I'm going to hold them just in case. Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. Tonight is actually a very exciting night for us and something that we've been waiting for quite some time. And when we go over this tonight, I want to focus on a couple of things, but obviously we're going to talk a lot about the ballot questions tonight. We're going to go over some questions we anticipate the community to have, and we want to present to the board our proposal for the ballot questions. And just by having this opening slide, I want to say why this is a progress night, a night where we can show all the hard work and be appreciative of that hard work that's gone into this referendum. First of all, the fact that there are ballot questions that we're proposing to is something the board has been working on for quite some time, and we've been working on with them to propose these questions to give our community some voice in this referendum process. Additionally, we see the vote is listed as September 16th, and we have maintained that date as our goal for quite some time now. And with this proposal being approved this evening, that will mean that we are in fact on track for that September 16th vote, and that is a big milestone for our referendum process. So tonight, Mr. Heiser is going to join me. Our plan is to fill in. We work well together as we go through the slides. We both know our areas very well, and Mr. Heiser has a deep background in the referendum process. Long before I arrived, this work started. And so tonight, what we're proposing as ballot questions and answer some questions. Let's see if this is going to work, Dylan. Nope. Okay. Just quickly, I'd like to review why a referendum is necessary. We know that we have enrollment growth coming. We see the housing developments being built around Moorestown, and we see the need for space. We know that we have outdated infrastructure, and we know that this is our opportunity to begin to get our facilities ready to provide full-day, tuition-free kindergarten. Additionally, it's our time to replace aging systems like our HVAC and our roofs that are almost at end of life in most cases. Also, it's time for us to improve our academic and athletic spaces. Moorestown should be a destination. We should be able to show off our facilities and see what we have, and to show off our academic integrity as well. And so the proposals that we go over tonight will go both on academics as well as site improvements on most of our campuses. Additionally, the referendum is our opportunity to secure state aid. And the way we get that is through voter approval, meaning that when we talk about aid and funded projects, okay, Dylan. We anticipate some community questions as we present these ballot questions to the board tonight. What we anticipate are the questions in front of you, because we've been listening a lot to our community and what they have to say about the proposed projects. As you know, we've been communicating the referendum for quite some time now and the proposed projects that are within it. And so what we wanted to go over quickly was the idea that these questions are probably going to be in your mind as we move forward to the ballot questions. The first question, why are we proposing 2 questions? And the board deliberated on this for a long time, as did we. What we don't want you to think is that there are 2 questions and one is more important than the other, really. I know that Mr. Weeks had said a while ago, it's like 1A and 1B. We know that these projects are all necessary. And so what the board and our administration decided to do was come up with the 2 questions that would give our voters some flexibility in the vote during the referendum. How did we decide on the projects for each question? Well, we bundled them according to the most urgent needs. In the first question, which we'll go over in a little bit, and we'll get down to the actual projects that are in each question, but the first question prioritizes academics and space. And the second question has some of those site improvements in it, as well as the ability to improve the high school a little bit more than we can do on the current footprint. So, oh, no. Dylan, go back. I have more to say. Why not build a new elementary school? We'll talk to you about ineligible and eligible costs in a second when I turn it over to Mr. Heiser. But there is the question floating out in the community, why not just build a new elementary school? Well, that actually isn't the most fiscally responsible idea. The costs that we have included in these ballot questions have the maximum eligibility that we could possibly get out of the project and still improve our spaces. And so a new building would cost a great deal more than renovating our existing spaces appropriately. The next question we have are, what are eligible versus ineligible costs? And before I turn this mic over, I want to say the reason we're going over this is because when you see the ballot questions, if they are approved tonight, it will talk about what projects are eligible and what projects are ineligible. And what we don't want to do is have any misconceptions about that terminology.
Thank you, Dr. McNeely. I believe I've introduced myself to the members in the audience, but for those that might be online, my name's James Heiser. I'm the business administrator for the school district. The piggybacking on what Dr. McNeely said about a new elementary school and eligible versus non or ineligible costs. Ineligible costs do not mean that the project's not important. It's simply the funding formula that the state DOE has set aside for what is an eligible project versus what isn't an eligible project. And they've changed it over time. For example, one of the things that we felt very important to do is when the board put together applications to the state, the board chose to submit turf applications to the state because the state started to fund the drainage portion of a turf field, which is a good bulk of the cost of a turf field. It's the underneath the site work, but they don't fund the actual top turf. That's eligible versus ineligible. So we wanted to take a look to see if the state would strategically start to fund more. So we packaged those projects with that in mind. The state's funding formula is very much geared towards renovation over addition. But we do have, because of specific needs in Moorestown, we do have a need for additional space. So there is a strategic and a strategy that we went about with where to build that additional space. We chose to build that additional space onto our middle school because when the state looks at eligible costs versus ineligible costs for an addition, you have to approve unhoused students. And our middle school is the building that has that. So not only does it help model a true middle school model where 6, 7, and 8 is grouped together, but it also helps fiscally and financially as well. So when you see ineligible versus eligible costs, ineligible is just as important as eligible. It's just the state's funding mechanism that they fund more for renovation and projects associated towards renovation than they do additions.
And the last question certainly piggybacks off that information that Mr. Heiser just talked about. So they're all very connected. But the last question is, what will voters see on the ballot? And tonight, we're actually not going to go too deep into that language. We'll be working to communicate that if the board approves our proposal tonight for the 2 questions. We'll move forward with working with the community to see the specifics on how those are laid out. But one of the things we learned in this process is that the ballot questions are very much legally based. Some of them are difficult to understand, and we've chosen to include an explanatory statement, but even there, we'll have to define some of the terms for you. And we gave the example of ineligible versus eligible costs, but there are a few more items on there that you may see. Additionally, you'll see exactly the amount that was funded by the state and the tax impact for our voters overall, and I believe it'll be by month on there as well. Okay, Dylan. So Mr. Heiser is going to go over the ballot questions, but the way we've structured this, I just want to introduce, is that we'll go over the questions that we're proposing as the projects that we're proposing in each question and why we put them there, and then we'll talk about exactly the impact on our community.
Thank you, Dr. McNeely. So in ballot question number one consists of the majority of our projects. Many of these projects, pretty much all of them with the exception of some things surrounding the building, are interior renovations and or additions to our buildings and to our spaces. So at our elementary levels, our 3 elementary buildings would have various upgrades and renovations that would include fire panel replacements, so certain security enhancements, fire panel replacements, as well as public address system replacements that are all end of life that need to be replaced, as well as prioritizing spaces within our elementary buildings. We understand that currently, even without new housing, we have a space issue mainly at our elementary buildings. So by building an addition onto our middle school and moving our grade bands, 6th grade to our middle school and 3rd grade to our upper elementary school, which could be rebranded as a 3, 4, 5 true elementary school, it will free and create space at our lower elementaries. It will create 12 classrooms worth of space at our lower elementaries that then can be renovated. And what we will look to do is renovate them and make them full kindergarten compliant classrooms. To be a kindergarten compliant classroom, you have to have a toilet facility within those classrooms, and they have to be a certain square footage by state standards. This would improve those facilities and those classrooms to make them compliant. Anybody who's ever stepped foot inside of a preschool or kindergarten classroom, there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of materials, there's a lot going on in those rooms. So this prepares those rooms for full-day kindergarten expansion. Again, I touched base on the middle school addition. There would be 2 additions onto the middle school. One would be 24,500 square foot, which would house our 6th grade coming in. And then the second addition would be a full-size gym on the back of this building to be able to operate our PE, as well as lend itself to community use after hours. Gym and facilities renovations, those would primarily include our gym here being fully renovated, and then you can see our Eisenberg gym. It is end of life. The floor can no longer be sanded. It's a beautiful floor, but it has served its purpose. It's about 60 years old. And then our stadium turf is also end of life, and our tennis courts are in necessary need of repair. Those would be taken down fully and replaced with a full depth repair and replacement. And then the security improvements I touched on, and infrastructure throughout all of our buildings. So we have a lot of HVAC equipment that is old and end of life. It's what's called R22 Freon, you might know at home. That's no longer made, it's no longer produced. Our bill this summer alone, just to charge up our units, is somewhere around $11,000. So making these repairs will help on our electric bill, as well as helping on our maintenance costs as well. And then roofing. We do have various roofing projects at 3 of our buildings in this package as well. The total cost of ballot question 1 is $80.3 million, of which the state funds 40% of eligible costs. The state has historically funded that somewhere around 85% of that 40%, because there's a formula that goes into that. So it's typically right around 85% of that 40%. We've already taken that into account with what the state usually has for that, with the $15.9 million, with the way they calculate it, to establish an estimated monthly tax impact of $37 on the average assessed home in Moorestown. Can you take me to the next slide, Dylan? Ballot question 2 consists of creating an operations center here on our main campus here. I'll go into a little bit of detail about that in just a second. By making that operations center, it will free up space within our high school to do some instructional renovations and add some instructional spaces to our high school, as well as improve a wing in our high school that if you walk down our cafeteria wing, you might smell grass clippings, you might smell gasoline, you might even smell diesel fuel. And it's because our maintenance bay and our buildings and grounds infrastructure is in an instructional wing of the building. It's not the best setup for an instructional wing of a school. Yes, we will not do that. And then athletic enhancements, we would add 3 new turf fields and lighting to our Bridgeboro Road that will also help us enhance traffic flow. Why and how around that? The operations center right now consists of that maintenance area. It consists of that buildings and grounds area. By building the equivalent of a pole barn, its own structure, we can move all of that out of an instructional space, regain that instructional space, renovate that space, and then have that house separately the way it should be. It also allows us to have significant traffic improvements throughout our campus. If you ever go around our high school back towards the MAC, traffic can get a little dicey back there. There's cars that kind of cut through the parking lot. We don't have curb stops back there. We don't have a clear way of flowing about traffic. And we don't have a clear way to stack cars in the morning. Everybody's aware of the traffic issues that we see on this campus because we don't have the capability to stack cars on this campus. This helps facilitate that by improving this, by moving our current bus depot over and we would add an ingress-egress driveway off of Bridgeboro that would allow us to bring more vehicles onto our campus, more vehicles off the roadway, and safely move those vehicles about our campus by improving our traffic flow about the campus as well. And the 3 new turf fields on Bridgeboro Road are critical in that by moving our bus depot over and our operations center over, we ultimately lose one of our playing fields. But we gain it back by making these turf fields. Right now, 2 of those fields weren't turned when they were originally purchased, so they have the clay underneath of them. They don't drain well, so this helps fix that drainage problem. As well as that area is also delineated on a flood hazard map. We can't legally displace flood hazard water, but we can manage it through a turf system, and we can manage it through the drainage that goes along with a turf system. So that's why we are proposing that. And it lends itself that those fields will be online even in the worst of storms. After the worst of storms, these fields obviously will be available very quickly. The total cost in ballot question 2 is $28 million, with state aid being $2.7 million and an estimated monthly tax impact of $17 to the average assessed home. It's important to note question 2 can only pass if question 1 is also approved. They are contingent on one another. At this point, I'll turn it back over to Dr. McNeely.
Thank you. So you'll notice that there are so many details, but tonight is not necessarily for sharing every single detail of every single project, but we'll continue to put the word out and continue to communicate that. So the totals tonight are, we're proposing $108.3 million for the total cost. The total state aid we'd be awarded is 18.7, and I want to assure everyone that that is right on par with what Mr. Heiser said, which was of the 55 million, 22 million is eligible, and about 85% of that then becomes what we get from the state, and that is right on the money, right there, 18.7 million. And so that means with both questions passed, the estimated monthly tax impact would be about $54 on the assessed home, average assessed home in Moorestown, which you can see is $465,125. Now, should the board approve our proposed questions this evening, we'll have ways to educate the community on how to figure out what that tax impact will be. And like I said, we'll also go over what the specific ballot questions will look like and what's included in each one as we go through the summer and into the push coming into the fall. So what this means for our community now. Should the board approve these questions this evening for the ballot, it means that we're strategically using our space to enhance our instructional needs. We've prioritized that in the 2 questions, as you saw. We saw the need for our students to be in developmentally appropriate and academically appropriate settings by shifting the grade levels and making space. We saw their academic needs being met earlier by preparing for tuition-free full-day kindergarten, and for upgrading our critical building issues that Mr. Heiser outlined as our HVAC roofs and our communication systems that are sometimes at the end of life. It also preserves our neighborhood school model, and without getting into that too much, what I will say is currently if you move into one neighborhood, you may be pushed to another neighborhood school. For example, if you moved into South Valley area, you may have to then go to Baker to get room or go to Roberts in order to have space to attend school. And we'd like to preserve that neighborhood model as much as possible by using this referendum to create that much needed flexible space that will move with our growing population. So what you should know about voting, again, we'll go over the ballot a little bit more, and we will certainly be discussing more about poll times and sites. But we do know that the vote will be on September 16th if everything goes well this evening. We know that voting by mail is convenient, and we have directions on our website to talk about that. And you can do that for this election as well. And new residents still have to register with their new address. And then finally, You can go on our website for all of the details and more that we discussed, including detailed videos from me, from our principals, from our admin team, from our academic teams, to talk about exactly what these projects mean for our students and for our community. And this is the best place for you to go for up-to-the-minute details. And the next slide actually gives you the opportunity to pull out your cell phone and scan it and get right to that page and save it. Again, these are right on our website under the referendum tab on the mtps.com. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you both. That was a great presentation. Obviously high level, but it certainly builds upon the multiple presentations that we've had in the past that from our architects and engineers that go into more detail and that are available on the MTPS website. And so I know this has been a long time coming. I was thinking back about when we started discussing this potential referendum, and it was about 2 years ago, and I think when Joe Bollendorf, James, and I sat down to talk about timing, I think we we were probably too aggressive, and we were hoping to get it done in early 2024, and then that needle moved to late 2024, and then it was March of 25, and now here we are. So this is an important vote that we are taking tonight to move these referendum questions forward, and obviously we've had years to think about this current proposal, and we've certainly built off of what we learned from the referendum that was almost 6 years ago. So I know that there's a lot of minutia. I know that the board has spent a lot of time thinking about all of these issues, but I did want to open up the floor for any comments or questions from the board. Okay, seeing none. Why don't we do, I don't see it on the agenda, but why don't we typically do a public comment before we vote on items, and I think it's prudent that we do that now. So I'll add an agenda item where we will take public comment on the questions that we're going to vote on that are included in the agenda. This is the time for public comment only on that issue. There's a second public comment section at the end of the meeting, which will be in just a few minutes, most likely. And so if you'd like to make a public comment about these referendum questions, you can take the microphone. I'd ask that you limit your comments to roughly 3 minutes. It's not a question and answer session, but if there's something you'd like us to think about and consider before taking a vote, please feel free to comment. If you'd like to talk with one of us after the board meeting, I'm sure anybody up here would be happy to speak with you in a non-public setting. So with that, I would take a motion to open public comment. All in favor? All right, so if you'd like to make a comment, you can take the microphone and state your name and address before making your comment. Okay. Seeing no takers, can I get a motion to close public comment? All in favor? Thank you. And so we will move on to a resolution to approve the special election questions as set forth in the agenda, and the board should all have copies of the referendum questions. Could I please get a motion for the approval of that resolution?
Second.
Any comments or questions? And we will do a roll call vote for this one.
Ms. Arcara Burns.
Yes.
Mrs. Aurora. Yes. Mrs. Barnes.
Yes.
Mrs. Fowles Macaluso. Dr. Myatt.
Yes.
Mrs. Morano.
Yes.
Mr. Weeks.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Villanueva.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for your support of this resolution. It is certainly an important step in this process. So I thank everybody again for taking the time on a summer evening to be here and to cast your vote. At this point, we'll move into the general public comment section. So if anybody has a public comment regarding anything education related, whether it's on the agenda or off the agenda, now would be the time. Same rules apply. And if you'd like to make, well, let me get a motion to open public comment. All in favor? Thank you. If you'd like to make a public comment, you can take the microphone now. And seeing no takers, again, can I get a motion to close public comment? All in favor? Thank you. Is there any new business? Any old business? Does anybody have anything for the good of the order?
I just want to say congratulations to the board and this community for all the hard work on this referendum. And like we said, although tonight was extremely high level, I just want to congratulate everyone because it required so much work to get here. So many activities, so many nights, so many different community events. And so thank you for, on behalf of our administration, of course, to the community and to the board for working so hard for our students. This is something that we need, and I'm looking forward to getting out in the community and spreading the word even further. But tonight is a very big step in that September 16th direction, and I'm very proud, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing nobody interested in commenting, can I get motion for an adjournment? All in favor? All right. Thank you all.